In the gilded halls of the Ottoman Empire, where the air was thick with the scent of roseadder and the murmur of silken whispers, one woman's journey from the chains of captivity to the throne of influence stands as a testament to the unyielding force of intellect, charm, and sheer determination. Her name, etched into the annals of history as Hurrem Sultan, known in the West as Roxolana, or the Joyful One, evokes a saga of transformation, love, and power that reshaped the very fabric of an empire at its zenith. Born around 1502 in the verdant, mist-shrouded landscapes of Ruthenia, a region nestled in what is now western Ukraine under the sprawling Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, she entered the world as Alexandra Lasavsky, the daughter of a humble Orthodox priest named Lasavsky. Her early years unfolded in the quiet rhythms of village life, the tolling of church bells, the harvest of golden rye fields under vast skies, and the close-knit embrace of a family steeped in faith and tradition. Ruthenian was the tongue that shaped her first words, a Slavic dialect rich with folklore and resilience, and her world was one of modest piety, where the rhythms of Orthodox liturgy intertwined with the cycles of the seasons. Little did young Alexandra know that this idyllic existence would be shattered in an instant, propelling her into a destiny that would make her both a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. The rupture came swiftly, as it did for so many in that turbulent era. The Crimean Tatars, nomadic warriors allied with the Ottoman sultans through a web of tribute and raids, descended upon Ruthenian villages like a storm from the steppes. These incursions were no mere skirmishes. They were systematic harvests of human lives, fueled by the insatiable demand for slaves in the markets of the Black Sea and beyond. In one such devastating raid, likely around 1517 when Alexandra was just 15, her village of Rohatyn fell prey to the horsemen's fury. Flames licked at thatched roofs, screams pierced the dawn air, and families were torn asunder amid the clash of curved sabers and the thunder of hooves. Alexandra, with her striking red hair, rare flame amid the pale complexions of her kin and her wide-eyed innocence, was among the captives bundled onto carts and marched eastward. The journey was a descent into hell, bound in rough ropes that chafed her wrists raw. She endured days of blistering sun and freezing nights, subsisting on meager scraps while Tatar overseers barked orders in a tongue as foreign as it was terrifying. Dehydration clawed at her throat, illness stalked the caravan, and despair whispered of a life forever lost. Yet even in this crucible, glimmers of her indomitable spirit emerged. Accounts from later chroniclers suggest she sang Ruthenian folk songs under her breath, a quiet act of defiance that would later earn her the name Hurrem, the Joyful One. The captives were funneled to the infamous slave market of Kaffa on the Crimean Peninsula, a bustling nexus of human commerce where the Ottoman Empire's shadowy economy thrived. Here, under striped awnings amid the clamor of haggling merchants and the cries of the auctioneer, Alexandra was appraised like livestock. Her youth, vitality, and exotic beauty fetched a premium. Slavic women, with their fair skin and resilient frames, were prized for the imperial harems, seen as vessels of purity, untainted by Islamic noble lineages that might complicate dynastic politics. Purchased by Ottoman traders, she was shipped across the Black Sea to Istanbul and Constantinople. The jewel of the Bosphorus where, the city's minarets, pierced the sky like jeweled spears. The slave bazaar near the Hagia Sophia was a whirlwind of despair and desperation. Chained lines of women from every corner of the empire, from Circassian hills to Venetian shores, bartered for gold. It was here, in this dehumanizing spectacle, that Alexandra caught the eye of agents connected to the imperial court. Legend whispers that Pargali, Ibrahim Pasha, Suleiman's childhood friend and rising vizier, selected her as a gift for the young prince. Sensing her potential spark, renamed Hurrem upon her entry into the harem, a moniker bestowed for her irrepressible cheer amid adversity. She was ritually bathed, her Christian cross cast aside, and initiated into Islam. The conversion was both a survival rite and a rebirth. Sprinkled with sacred water in the grand hammam, she emerged veiled in purpose. Stepping into the labyrinthian world of the Topkapi Palace, the imperial harem was no den of indolent luxury, as Western fantasies would later paint it, but a formidable microcosm of empire, a sprawling complex of over 400 rooms, courtyards blooming with tulips and fountains murmuring like secrets, governed by iron hierarchies and veiled intrigues. Overseen by the valid Sultan Hafsa, Sultan Suleiman's formidable mother, and the Kisla, the chief black eunuch whose eunuchs patrolled like shadows, the harem was a school of survival where women from distant lands were molded into instruments of power or obscurity. Hurrem entered as a lowly odalisque, one among hundreds, her days filled with menial toil, scrubbing marble floors etched with Iznik tiles, folding cascades of silk kaftans scented with amber, or serving trays of honeyed lokum in the steam-kissed baths. Yet, from these humble beginnings, her ascent was meteoric, propelled by a mind as sharp as a janissary's yataghan. She devoured lessons in Turkish, Persian, and Arabic, her tongue adapting with the agility of a survivor. She mastered the lute, coaxing melodies from its strings that echoed Ruthenian laments, transformed into Ottoman grace, and she absorbed the arcane arts of courtly poetry, drawing from masters like Fuzolu to weave words that could soothe or ensnare. Her laughter, bright and unforced, cut through the harem's tension like sunlight through laughter, earning her allies among the serving girls and wary glances from rivals. Suleiman, who ascended the throne in 1520 as the 10th Sultan of the House of Osman, was no ordinary ruler, dubbed the Magnificent by Europeans for his conquests, from the walls of Belgrade to the gates of Vienna, and the lawgiver by his subjects for his reforms that balanced Sharia with secular canon. He was a polymath, a warrior whose saber had tasted Safavid blood, a poet whose verses under the pen name Mahib mourned the soul's exile, and a man whose heart yearned for a connection beyond the throne's cold isolation. At 26 he inherited an empire stretching from Algiers to Baghdad, its coffers brimming with spice-root gold. Yet his private world was one of calculated detachment, concubines as fleeting pleasures, heirs dispatched to provincial manors to harden like steel. Hurrem's path crossed his in 1520 or 1521, amid the harem's daily procession where women bowed like willows in the wind. Tradition held that the Sultan selected companions at whim, but fate or perhaps Hurrem's bold spark intervened. One apocryphal tale claims Suleiman overheard her singing a haunting Slavic melody while laundering linens, her voice a bridge across cultures that stirred his soul. Another posits Hafsa herself chose her, sensing a match for her son's restless spirit. Whatever the truth, their first encounter ignited a flame that would burn through centuries of protocol. By 1521, Hurrem bore Suleiman's first son, Qazaid, a robust boy whose cries echoed the harem's triumph. This birth elevated her from obscurity to contender, supplanting Mahidevran, mother of Suleiman's elder son, Mustafa Haz, the favorite Haseki, though the title was yet informal. Mahidevran, a Circassian beauty with a viper's temperament, viewed this upstart Ruthenian as a threat to her son's primogeniture. Jealousy festered into violence. In an infamous 1520s incident, Mahidevran attacked Hurrem in the baths, clawing her face and drawing blood that stained the rose-petal waters crimson. When Suleiman summoned her that night, Hurrem veiled her wounds and demurred, her absence piquing his concern until she revealed the scars, marks, not just of flesh, but of the harem's brutal under. Enraged, Suleiman banished Mahidevran temporarily, a decree that cemented Hurrem's hold. Yet her rise was no mere Suleiman's letters to her, preserved in the seismic shift, came in 1533 or 1534. When Suleiman, defying 2 centuries of Ottoman custom, married Hurrem, in a private ceremony witnessed by the Sultans wedded foreign princesses for alliances, not slaves. Concubines bore one son, then retired to provincial shadows, yet Suleiman freed her, manumitting her from bondage, and elevated her to Haseki Sultan, the chief consort, a title coined anew, granting her a stipend of 2,000 aki daily, dwarfing even valid allowances. A Genoese envoy marveled, an unprecedented event. The Grand Signor weds a Russian slave as empress. The union shocked the court. Hafsa, dying in 1534, reportedly clashed with her daughter, while Mahidevran seethed from a niece. Hurrem's fertility sealed her supremacy. 5 sons: Mamday Abdullah, who perished young, Salim Bayezid, Cihangir, the hunchbacked poet, and a daughter Mirama, whose beauty rivaled Sultan. Tradition demanded mothers and sons part upon maturity, but Suleiman decreed otherwise. Hurrem remained in top copy, her chambers adjoining his, a breach that fueled whispers of sorcery. European diplomats dubbed her the Witch of the East, accusing her of bewitching the Sultan with potions or spells. Her red hair a mark of the devil, yet Ottoman chroniclers like Selazaid Mustafa praised her piety, noting her veils and prayers as shields against envy. Hurrem's influence transcended the boudoir, forging her into the architect of the Sultanate of Women, an era from 1534 to 1683, where imperial consorts and valids wielded sway, rivaling viziers. As Haseki she became Suleiman's shadow advisor, her counsel threading through statecraft like gold and brocade. During his absences, the grueling Iranian campaigns against Shah Tahmasp I, where Ottoman janissaries clashed with Kizilbash horsemen, she managed palace affairs, her network of eunuchs and maids a web of intelligence. Letters to Poland's Sigismund II Augustus, her distant kinsman, blended diplomacy with kinship. My joy at your health mirrors the Bosphorus's gleam. May our realms bind as brothers. She swayed foreign policy, urging alliances against Habsburgs and domestic reforms, her voice in the divan echoing through proxies like Rust, whom she maneuvered into Grand Vizirat via her daughter Mirama's marriage. Yet power's price was intrigue's venom. The harem simmered with plots. Mahidevran's faction, backed by conservative ulema, branded Hurrem a foreign sorceress corrupting the faith. In 1536, she allegedly orchestrated Ibrahim Pasha's fall. Vizier, whose ambition outgrew his station, whispering of treason, until Su ordered his strangulation with a silken cord in the top copy's golden cage. The gravest shadow fell over Qazaid Mustafa, Mahidevran's son and heir presumptive, whose popularity among the janissaries threatened Hurrem's brood. By the 1550s, as Suleiman's gout and melancholy deepened, Succession loomed like a storm. Mustafa, golden-haired and valiant, governed Manisa with acclaim, his letters to his father laced with filial piety. Yet Hurrem, ever the strategist, sowed discord, forged missives purportedly from Mustafa to Safavid envoys, whispers of rebellion in the seraglio's steam-filled alcoves. In 1553, at Aragli, Suleiman, heart-torn yet resolute, commanded his son's execution by bowstring, the boy's final plea echoing unanswered. Chroniclers like Pichivi decried it as the empire's wound, blaming Hurrem's serpentine wiles, while Venetian envoys gloated at the dynasty's fracture. Bayezid and Selim turned rivals, their mother's favor tilting the scales. Selim, the wine-loving drunkard, ascended in 1566, as Selim II, fulfilling her vision. Sahanjir, the fragile poet, perished of grief at the news. His deathbed verse a lament, mother's triumph, my world's end. Amid these tempests, Hurrem's benevolence shone as a counterpoint. Her philanthropy, a balm for her contested legacy, drawing from Quranic imperatives and the Prophet's hadiths on Sadaqah, jari enduring charity, she poured her stipend into Vakif's endowments that sustained the realm's soul. Her magnum opus, the Haseki Hurrem complex in Istanbul's Arat Pazari Women's Market, completed in 1539 by the maestro Min, was a symphony of piety, a majestic mosque with domes like inverted tulips, its minbar carved with arabesques, twin madrasas where scholars parsed Fiqh and Hadith, a hospital tending the afflicted with herbal poultices and surgical precision, an Imaret soup kitchen dispensing daily gruel 2000s, its recipe of barley and lentils unchanged to this day, and a primary school for the orphans she once mirrored. Azure Iznik tiles gleamed on its walls, verses from Surah al-Baqarah, compete in goodness, inscribed in Thuluth script. Beyond Istanbul, her reach spanned the Ummah. In Jerusalem, the 1552 Haseki Sultan Imran, a Mamluk revival marvel with Abelki stone mosaics and stalactite portals, fed pilgrims along the Jaffa Road, its endowments from 195 villages like Beit Dian and Yazir yielding flour from mills and soap from factories. In Mecca and Medina, caravanserais sheltered Hajis. In Edirne and Ankara, mosques rose like beacons. Even bird feeders dotted her gardens, a nod to mercy for all creation. These herapious works were no vanity. They amassed spiritual merit, secured public adoration, and funneled revenues to allies. Her Vakif deeds, a ledger of 32 estates ensuring perpetuity. Hurrem patronized the arts too, commissioning calligraphers to illuminate divan, weavers to craft prayer rugs in crimson and lapis, and miniaturists whose folios captured Suleiman's triumphs her support, birthing the Ottoman Renaissance's floral motifs and intricate arabesques. Yet the throne's splendor masked frailty. By the 1550s, Hurrem's health ebbed. Chronic ailments, perhaps rheumatism from harem drafts or the toll of 6 confinements, gnawed at her vigor. Suleiman, now silvered and besieged by empire's wet, the 1551 loss of Mem to smallpox, the endless Persian fronts clung to her as anchor. Their final letters, unearthed in 2019 from presidential archives, brim with poignancy. My Sultan, my torments end, where this tear-dampened shift against your skin. It carries my soul to you, she wrote in 1554, her script faltering. He replied, without you, my throne is ash. Return to me, my moonlit empire. In April 1558, at 56, she slipped away in the old palace, her last breath a whisper of prayers. Suleiman shattered, aged visibly overnight, banning festivities,